On paper, Britain is not supposed to feel this skint. Most people are working, wages are going up, inflation has come down from the absolute madness of a couple of years ago, the banks haven't collapsed, the economy hasn't officially fallen into a giant hole in the floor, and yet, for millions of people, life still feels like this. You get paid, the money arrives, you blink, and suddenly it's gone. So today, we're going to answer a simple question. Why does Britain feel poorer than it looks? Not in a dramatic, the whole country is doomed kind of way, more in a, why does it feel like cheese has become a luxury item kind of way? And the answer is not just inflation, it's not just tax, it's not just rent, it's the way all of these things stack together. Britain hasn't necessarily become poorer overnight, but normal life has become very expensive to maintain. So in this video, we're going to look at the Great British Money Squeeze. Let's start with the confusing bit. If you only look at the headline numbers, things don't look completely terrible. Inflation has fallen a long way from the peak, wages are still rising, the job market has not completely fallen apart, so in theory, people should be starting to feel better. That word theory is doing a lot of heavy lifting, because people don't live inside headline numbers, they live inside bank accounts. If prices go up by 10%, then inflation falls to 3%, that does not mean prices have gone back down. It just means they are now rising more slowly from the already painful level they reached before. So the milk, rent, insurance, train ticket, takeaway, energy bill and a bag of crisps did not all apologise and return to 2019. They stayed expensive. They just stopped getting expensive quite as quickly. That is why the economy can say, good news, inflation is lower, while your wallet says, I appear to have been mugged by a meal deal. Now, wages have been rising too, but the problem is a pay rise does not land in your pocket untouched. It has to pass through Britain's financial obstacle course. First, tax takes a slice, then national insurance takes another slice. If you've got a student loan, that takes a slice. If you pay into a pension, which is good, that also reduces what hits your bank account today. Then the money finally arrives and immediately gets taxed by rent, mortgage payments, council tax, energy, food, car insurance, broadband, phone contracts, childcare, train fares, and the little subscription you forgot to cancel in 2021. So when someone says wages are going up, that may be true. But the better question is, how much of that rise survives contact with real life? Because if your pay rises by a few percent, but your rent, mortgage, insurance, food, and bills all rise too, you might technically be earning more while feeling exactly the same. Or worse. There's another sneaky bit. The UK tax system has a feature that sounds boring but is genuinely important. Frozen thresholds. Normally you might expect tax thresholds to rise over time as wages and prices rise, but when thresholds are frozen, more of people's income gets pulled into tax over time, even if tax rates themselves haven't gone up. This is called fiscal drag, which is a very boring name for something that feels like HMRC slowly moving the goalposts while pretending the pitch stayed the same. The personal allowance is the amount you can earn before paying income tax. The higher rate threshold is where more of your income starts being taxed at a higher rate. When those thresholds stay still but wages rise, more people get dragged into paying more tax. So a pay rise can feel oddly disappointing. You might be told, congratulations, you earn more now. But your take-home pay replies, do I? This is one of the reasons Britain can feel poorer than it looks. Your gross salary might be climbing, but your actual breathing room may not be. Now we have to talk about the big one, housing. For many people, housing is the single biggest financial pressure in Britain. If you rent, you already know this. Rent has become a monthly boss fight. You pay it, recover emotionally, and then somehow it's due again 17 minutes later. Average private rents have continued rising, and in some areas, especially where supply is tight and wages are lower, rent can swallow a ridiculous share of income. If you own, with a mortgage, you may have a different version of the same problem. For years, many people got used to very low interest rates. Then rates rose, and because lots of British mortgages are fixed for 2 or 5 years, the pain didn't hit everyone at once. It arrived in waves. So someone who fixed at a low rate a few years ago might come to the end of that deal and suddenly find the new monthly payment is hundreds of pounds higher. Nothing about the house has changed. Same bricks, same leaky gutter, same neighbour who pressure washes the patio at 8 AM. But the cost of owning it changed. That is a very strange feeling. It makes people feel poorer without their lifestyle getting better. They are not buying more luxury, they are just paying more to stand still. The next reason Britain feels poorer is that a lot of people do not have much buffer. This matters because financial stress is not only about income, it's what happens when something goes wrong. If you've got savings, an unexpected bill is annoying. If you don't, it's a crisis. A broken boiler, car repair, school trip, vet bill, or a missed shift can push people straight into overdrafts, credit cards, and buy now, pay later. And once debt enters the picture, your future income starts getting eaten before you even earn it. That is the brutal bit. Being skint is expensive. If you have money, you can buy in bulk, pay annually, avoid interest, absorb shocks, and make calmer decisions. If you don't, you pay monthly, borrow short term, get hit with fees, and make decisions under pressure. This is why two people on similar salaries can feel completely different. One has a buffer, the other is one direct debit away from disaster. There's also a deeper problem. A lot of things people cannot easily opt out have become expensive. Housing, energy, food, transport, childcare, insurance, council tax. These are not little treats. These are the cost of participating in normal life. You can stop buying fancy coffees. You can cancel Netflix. You can stop pretending you'll use that gym membership. But you can't exactly cancel needing somewhere to live. This is where a lot of personal finance advice starts to feel a little insulting. Because yes, budgeting helps. And yes, wasting money makes things worse. But the real squeeze is not usually caused by one too many cappuccinos. It is caused by the basic cost of being an adult in Britain rising faster than people's sense of security. You can budget perfectly and still feel trapped if the unavoidable bills are too high. The final reason Britain feels poorer than it looks is comparison. Not just social media comparison, structural comparison. People can see that owning assets has mattered more and more. If you bought a house years ago, low interest rates and rising house prices may have worked in your favour. If you didn't, you may now need a huge deposit, higher income, higher monthly payments, and possibly a small miracle from a relative called the bank of mum and dad. That doesn't mean every homeowner is rich. Plenty of homeowners are squeezed too. But it does mean Britain can feel like two different games. One game for people who already own assets, another game for people trying to buy them using wages alone. And that is where the frustration comes from. People are not just asking, why am I not rich? They are asking, why does doing normal things not seem to work anymore? Work hard, get a pay rise, save a deposit, buy a house, start a family, build a pension. That used to sound like a fairly normal ladder. Now, for many people, it feels like the ladder is still getting there, but every rung has a small tax goblin, rent monster, interest rate dragon, or childcare troll sitting on it. So why does Britain feel poorer than it looks? Because the headline numbers don't capture the lived experience. Inflation falling does not mean prices fell. Wage growth does not mean people feel richer. Frozen tax thresholds can make pay rises feel smaller. Housing costs can rise without your home getting any better. Low savings mean small shocks become big problems. And the basics of adult life have become so expensive that cutting back on treats cannot fix the whole picture. This is not just a story about people being bad with money, and it's not just a story about one villain. It's a story about a country where the cost of standing still has gone up. That's why Britain can look okay in a spreadsheet and still feel exhausting in real life. But there's one cost that sits underneath almost everything we've talked about today. Housing. Renters feel it, homeowners feel it, first-time buyers feel it, parents helping their children feel it, even the banks and government are tangled up in it. So in the next video, we're going to draw the monster properly. Because somewhere along the way, Britain stopped treating houses like places to live and started treating them like money machines.